Hey everyone, just as a forward before we get into everything, I wanted to express that the audio here got a little chopped up by some editing, and Zero and his sons doesn't sound quite like he's normally supposed to, so I apologize doing that. They did a group communication with us at one of their sites where they were actually building stuff. So there was a lot of background noise with machines and air conditioning, and I didn't want that to detract. So if you hear anything that sounds like a weird lisp or something, that was the software trying to define his speaking with a little bit of editing error, I guess. Overall, you can understand everything he says. Just please, I apologize him. First of all, the editing didn't go as well as I'd hoped, and on top of that, for the listener to keep him clear and for you to hear what he's saying, it kind of went the way it did. So I apologize to the guys who are listening. Hopefully, down the road, I'm probably going to end up getting something involving one of his cans eventually, so there'll probably be another conversation about that too. I just got to figure out when I'm going to have the opportunity to do that and define that with the wife, because I'm really interested in his products, obviously, or I wouldn't have had him on. That said, we're going to continue, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown of upcoming classes I know about. Alright, going to start off with one of my new classes that I went to. That is going to be the Contender Pistol course, which will be on the 23rd of this month, which is coming up real soon for the guys who are listening to this. His class is in Holt, Florida, is the location. And if I remember correctly, I think the course is $285. I just took it. I can't say enough about this guy. If you are Christian at all, I would highly recommend you stay after class and listen to a very interesting little, we'll call it a testimony. Overall, super good dude. If you're not religious, you can go to the course and you'll absolutely have a blast. He's not preachy in the course. There's nothing like that. I just want to warn you guys up front, because there are Christians here that I know would enjoy staying a little bit later. But overall, course is really fast. Bring snacks. Lunch is kind of skipped, and you will be so busy through the whole thing that you won't even notice the time flying by. 500 rounds is bare minimum. You might want to bring an extra 100, especially with the high cap magazines if you have that. I had an amazing time. I learned a lot more, and it is an outside the waistband course, which was interesting. This is not for brand new super novice shooters. This is for the guys who kind of know what they're doing but want to get those fundamentals from basic to hero a lot faster, and I think he presents really good stuff. That said, you don't have to be a savant in shooting. You don't have to be super skilled. He has instructors to help the lower side, and they kind of separate the course to assist the more novice shooters and then the more advanced shooters, and you may get moved around as you progress too. That said, next one I'm going to talk about is our good friend Wes Hightower, Rally Point Solutions. He's got a close target reconnaissance course, one-day seminar in Fayetteville, North Carolina for $250. It's 19 June is when that one is. So that's coming up, and I'm not probably going to be able to make it, but c'est la vie. Now we're going to go back on to my good friend Joe Dolio and his courses. So right now he has a combatives coming up May 22nd and 24th, combatives 3-day course. And then he has a land navigation on May 30th. It's $200. His May 31st is radio basics. And then in June, he'll have another combatives on the 5th and 7th. And then a fieldcraft course on June 9th to the 11th. And then one of his probably premier ones that a lot of people should check out, June 19th to the 21st, will be community security ops. He's got a whole bunch on here through July. And he'll have, just heads up for you guys who like a little longer delay out, he's going to be in North Carolina, October 6th to 8th, doing his Fieldcraft in North Carolina. And that'll be at the G Camp, and October 16th to 18th will be Community Security Ops North Carolina. I'm going to try to shoot for one of those. We'll see if I can get the time off, but I'll be hitting hopefully one of those. Last but not least, let's go over to the new brushbeater.store webpage. If you haven't seen it, it's updated. He's got a lot more going on. Obviously, he had to jump the shark and get off Shopify because he is now selling ammunition and some other cool stuff. But we're going to talk about the courses right now. Intro to Land Navigation course is 23rd to the 24th of May in North Carolina. I forget who the instructor is. I brought him up in the last podcast. Really good dude. A lot of people have said high praise of him. And then we have another one, which I'm going to be at, helping, assisting, and we should have a podcast about this coming up too. Will be the HF NVIS operations course, which will be the 5th to the 7th of June. So that's coming right around the corner. And that'll be with Historian. And that should be it for the stuff I've got. If any of you guys know of good instructors and you want us to plug them here, you've been to the course, you think they're good, just hit us up and I'll try to add their roster to the list of courses I tell you about. Welcome all you preppers, contras, and guys interested in gear, and the one gal we probably have listening, which will probably be my wife. Today we're going to be talking to a very special guest. They've got a company out here, Zer0andSons, and they are making suppressors. And I ran across them, interestingly enough, on X. I think this is going to be one of the questions we chit-chat about, but there's not a lot of space for suppressors right now, and those who listen to Radio Contra have heard probably that the suppressor industry, everybody expected the suppressor industry to explode, and it has possibly shortfallen a little bit, and these guys are kind of new working on this. I think they have some experience and some people working with them. But we're going to find out all about them. I'm going to ask them the stupid questions because I have some suppressors. I have a close friend who's picking up his suppressor today, and I want to know more, and I want you guys to know more because there's a zero tax thing. So, gentlemen, please introduce yourself, and let's talk about suppressors.
Hey, good afternoon. So, I'm Zer0andSons, and my business partner here is going by June, Frank Jones, and the and Sons part of Zer0andSons is here also. It's
Well, welcome, guys. I saw you on X. I was interested in what you were doing. I also kind of perused your website before you popped up, or before I even messaged you to talk to you, because I saw your prices and saw some other stuff. But I kind of want to know what got you guys into making suppressors, and what is your goals with suppressors, if that makes sense? Like, what are you trying to bring to the market that maybe other people don't, or maybe you're doing the same thing they are, but you think you're better at, or you're trying to be better at?
well, so first of all, I have about 15 years now of additive manufacturing experience, and I learned the last couple of jobs actually, where I really got to look at the internal geometry of suppressors, how much AM could benefit the technology. So that was kind of the start. And I've always kind of been a gun guy, and so, but I mean, that's really what we started, was, you know, where I kind of started with it, was I was looking at it, and then I started posting a few things. I actually posted some stuff like on LinkedIn. I got a published article, and then we're like, well, maybe we can make a run at this thing, especially like you said, that the zero tax stamp coming up at the time. You know, this would have been last May, I guess, that I really got serious about it. And then just sort of loop people in. June and I, we work together in our day job, and he's an accomplished manual machinist, and Sons works in Goon's family business now, doing machine shop stuff. And so we kind of already had the right skill set, and then add in the additives to kind of find the niche there. I don't think that there's necessarily a spot where one kind of suppressor over another is ever going to be king necessarily, but there's definitely a place for a bunch of different technologies, actually, especially with the history of suppressors. And so that was where I really wanted to look at it. To answer your second question, Al, was to find a way to improve on the existing market technology, but also find ways to do it without breaking the bank and just, I mean, money's already tight. So there's no reason to spend 2x or 3x the cost of your gun on the hearing protection part of the gun. So that was really those things kind of combined together. And frankly, I shot a lot of cans at my last job, and I got bit by the bug, and it's really hard to go back. Once
Yeah.
it's like driving a fire around a muffler.
Yep.
So yeah, so I mean that's really kind of the thing. It's use a existing machining ability, use that AM experience that I've got, mash it together, make some images and cost a fortune.
Yeah. And I'm gonna read off your website.
Sure.
You got the People's Can, a can for the everyman, which coming off the shelf. We're just coming off the shelf dudes talking about this stuff. I know we're not a huge podcast, but I like seeing that. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I want to talk to these guys.
Yeah.
Lightweight and versatile, the People's Can is designed to get you running as quickly as possible, just like the new pair of sneakers when you were a kid. It's made of titanium, weighs in under 10 ounces, and accepts any caliber up to 45 caliber. This is a full-size suppressor at a stub can price. We believe in less bang for the buck here. The People's Can accepts any standard 1 3/8 by 24 hub, adapter mount not included. The goal here is to get the user a complete package suppressor mount, muzzle devices, and Trust LLC that will do everything that you need to for under $1,000, which I think is phenomenal. It's kind of funny because CanCon up in South Carolina just got done, and I just got emails for Shootah out in Utah, and they're big, heavy expose on suppressors out there too. And I saw some unique companies out there, but there's little known about them. But all their prices are above $1,000 right off the bat, so that's really cool.
So first and foremost, having spent as much time as I have in additives, especially the metal additive, I know exactly, probably to the dollar, how much material cost is going into those designs, with the understanding that R&D is hugely expensive, and there's a bunch of expensive fun to get any kind of device like this out to the market. At the same time, the manufacturing cost is quite low, and with the stamp going away, what you're seeing was a lot of people run at the end of the year saying, hey, we'll give you a free stamp, we'll give you free trust. But now that the stamp is gone away, they had to change their price.
Yeah, that's something I noticed too. I have two right now. I have a 22 that I actually won, and I have one for my pistol calibers. I'm probably going to be getting a rifle caliber here soon. Once Wisco Mando is one of my other dudes. He's big into firearms, and I'm having him do some work for me, and I'm going to probably get one for that. So definitely something to look at. I see your materials, DMLS titanium. Could you tell me a little bit about that and why you chose that specifically?
It's the cleanest and most accurate way to produce the geometries that I want to produce with the People's Can. And it's also the manufacturing strategies I have the most experience with. So that was an easy choice from the beginning. You're not going to get, there's some processes that are called VED, which is a directed energy deposition. Who uses like a blast, a powder, and a welding wire or some lasers. It's that you want must level stuff. It's not, you still have some limitation. The same thing with any kind of wire welding or anything like that. There's some severe limits and wall thicknesses and geometry fidelity, which you just can't reach any other way besides. And DMLS that's actually a trademark. It's the best way to describe it. It's a bed of powders. It's an inert environment. The machine lays a very thin layer, 1 to 1.5 thousandths of an inch on that areas, hit with one or more high wattage lasers, 5,000-7,000 watt lasers that draw the design, and then the cable drops slightly, and then we add another aloni thin layer of metal, and then we defeat the process 600, 700, 800, 1,000 times until you use it to full device. And then when it's done, you have like a child sandbox full of can. Effectively, is what you got.
Gotcha. And it makes sense.
Yes.
And I know a little bit about that. I'm glad you brought that up and explained that the way you did. Hopefully, some of the listeners kind of get the idea. If I get a chance, I'll link to some of the videos because it is an interesting process to do that.
Yeah.
I want to actually look at some of your other stuff because you have end caps and the interesting thing for the side note for some of the listeners, I know there's a company over on the East Coast that is making an AS Val, completely American version of it, which is a suppressed Russian sniper rifle variation. And they're manufacturing in-house probably a handful of these things. And that company makes little limited stuff too. I ended up finding you because I was researching that just for shits and grins. You also have another suppressor out there, I guess the Rubato. Can you tell me a little bit about this? Roboto.
It's often seen as a music the term, but in this case, there are a few things I could find that better describe that particular. And it's a perfect caliber can that you're going to pay almost what you would be paying if you were going to print the thing yourself and with all the material. You've seen all of these filament cans that are out there. Why the fact said and done manufacturing those with either a metal tube or a bunch of fiberglass resin or putty or whatever you're going to be kind of in the ballpark. The difference is the body of this can doesn't wear out, but the craft is modular. The staff is a plug in.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see you've got 9mm, 10mm / 40 and 45 caliber, and then you've got a stack choice of basic PA-CF disposable and then a full metal edition, PCC only.
There are two. There's one that's done and the second one that's in process. Because about Friday you might set it good for a couple hundred rounds, which is fine. It only costs about $3 to $4 for it. And we will send you a free one if you pay shit though. If you ever burn your sack up. But that was intended for the entry-level shooter. Somebody wants to go out and make the basic, and at the end of it, you don't clean the can, you just set it that thing.
Yeah, and the price right now is really a stupid amazing $300.
Right.
I also like that with that, you can iterate on that and make it better over time. I don't know the whole legal restraints on that. And I'm going to back up. I wanted a suppressor for a long time. There's been multiple things that have stopped me. One, I was in the military and traveled all the time, and getting a suppressor back in the day was a year wait. So that wasn't going to happen because I was deployed every other year, basically. I just had the money, came home, and I was like, I'll do it later, and never did it. And this is probably back when suppressors were, I'd say there's a lot less choices back in the day too, and I didn't know what I wanted, etc. And then I got a job on the road, which was equally damning because you have to be in your state. You have to go do that stuff. Now with the turnaround a week, a lot of the guys that I know who did construction are now actually getting suppressors because they can. But this is definitely this is something that I see with a lot of stuff. A lot of people buy, like they get into golfing, they'll buy the most expensive thing in the world and they use it for a little bit and they're like, hey, I'm done. They put it on their shelf. This is an awesome entry-level spot for it, too. Like, hey, let me go test this out. Let me see if I like suppressors. Because it obviously works.
No matter what. And yeah, we have a ton of videos up there. We got about 200 rounds through our first test article that we took out. At the end of the day, the sack is completely smoked, but it's still in here.
Which is awesome.
One nice thing about the having to replace its back is, unlike the people, and I'm all for people getting their Form 1 cans, but I also don't honestly trust the government. The biggest concern that I have with the people making all those Form 1 cans is when they burn out, you're supposed to tell the ATF that you've destroyed that mode, and then they can come looking for those. So you're either going to have a whole closet of shot up cans, you've got cans, or they might decide that, I don't know, they want to flash things with ours or whatever, they don't want the Zer0and isn't there.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I hesitated to do it back in the day. It was easier at the time when you could do a faster turnaround on the paperwork, and I was like, oh, this might be an option. And started looking at it, and then things changed.
Well, the idea here was that the body of the can, the tube, is the serialized portion. That's the part with all the threads. That's about everything else up to that. It meets the legal definition of a suppressor silencer as soon as you put a serial number on it. And that way, Everything else is repairs. You're already on books. You already have it. You can ship it back to us. We'll put a stack in for you. Either way, depending on how lucky you feel. But the stack itself would be no different. And again, we don't sell the stacks. Anybody don't have to through that. You can't find it.
Gotcha.
Your serial number and everything. And then if you want an upgrade, we're ready and able to accommodate you. So this first one that I bought out is a DMLS stainless steel. It is really overbuilt, but that's because I think I know our customer base, everyone's customer base, honestly, inevitably people want to earn something down. And I know it's possible. We've all been on EP, but I wanted to make it as possible to be. So anyway, that's where that came from. The full metal stacks, the full metal edition. We already have a couple of the triples. And the idea there with the people who want to take advantage of fatal outage, use a full string set for use, put it on their legal full water in a pistol caliber and go to town and not have to be to send up the device.
And those are actually one of the questions that was asked. I'm in a couple groups with the training people that I've trained with. The last one was with Wes Hightower, who's ex-Green Beret, who's teaching us how to pick locks. And I was in his group, and one of the questions on here was, are they the industry as a whole building their products with higher firing schedules in mind due to the proliferation of force resets, and are integral suppressed firearms going to become more prolific as the tax stamp goes away?
I would say absolutely the bulk away. You give too much away. I was asked to do individually suppressed 30s. So we're actually working on that today.
Nice.
Yeah, basically, I was shipped a gun and I'm sending back a T-stamp done.
That's part of the reason I looked into the ASVAL guy. The company who's doing that, he was a Form 1 suppressor dude back in the day, and I'm interested in that mostly because as a young everybody out there wanted an MP5 suppressed with the integrally suppressed and the slap and everything else. I have a CZ Scorpion, which was the poor man's MP5 for me. And I was like, I'm not going to spend $5,000 now. Now, fast forward, they're not as expensive. The clones aren't as expensive, and they're getting way better.
HK hates you if you're not the government.
Yeah, I have the same problem with Data Defense. I think they feel the same way. Not so much anymore, but they used to. So let's talk about your Model 1225, because ultimately, the thing that got me into suppressors was a 22 can from Huxworks. And my good friend who's picking one up today is getting a 22 can, and I had to give him some 22 ammo because he didn't know that there was like suppressed ammo, or maybe he did, but I had some. So
1225 is unlike the Rubato, which really go with that other point in mind. Really, see warning for the 1225 as long as you stick to 22, especially the 22 suppressed CCI. I don't get money from that, but TCI quiet semi-auto.
Yep, so that's what I got.
It sounds like a cap gun out of a 1225 infernal pistol, and out of the Ruger 1022. We have a video where you can actually hear Doom say, "Sounds like a pellet gun," because like a bolt is louder. So, and that's the whole point. There is to make shooting where it's legal. So firearm could be comfortable, it should be enjoyable, to be able to do with that ear throw, a whole, and this is where everybody wants to shoot their 22.
Yep.
The original HP Maxim, when he sold these, what he called silencers in 1912, one of the pictures that they had was actually two men indoors, like shooting through a living room into a study, into a sandbox. Sold.
That is my dream.
Real thing, man. That's really what they were. That was what the inventor of the suppressor was really after, was something that you can go out and shoot and not annoy your neighbors. And frankly, a suppressed one will you interpret to that.
Yeah, and that's something. The reason why my friend's getting it is he has a chicken farm thing going on, and they have a farm. But they have multi-million-dollar homes in the area around them too. It's less of a country farmland than it used to be.
Like,
But they still have predators. They have other things in the area that they sometimes have to deal with. So I wish I had known about you guys beforehand, because I would have told them, hey, go get a can from you guys.
they're, well, I think a lot of what started this was really honestly that specific idea was to make a suppress 22. Root the Mark IV, the 1022, the TX22, all these guns are coming out. That all of them can benefit from the can. They're all blowbacks. There's no fancy pants, meal for nothing. They're actually a little bit how the first of May. Actually got a fixed direct dread now.
Yep.
Which is integral to it. But the performance on it is fantastic. And we're gonna spend some time if I can find a real decibel meter, because I honestly believe that the polymer stack is actually quieter than a metal one.
Interesting.
I know that the heat dissipation, more heat stays in the polymer than he would in a metal can. The heat transfer. We were doing a pretty aggressive schedule of fire, and I swapped out a Roboto off of that TCC with the glove on, just a tactical glove, and did not burn the bejesus out of myself. That's what got me thinking about it. So now we're going to get an IR gun, and then we're going to get even if it's the done at Amazon decibel meter, and just not to say that it's exactly every 12 decibel whatever, but to get a comparison between the metal can, the metal stack, and the polymer stack, because that is definitely a point to be made, and it just says, the polymer stack costed nothing.
Yeah.
So,
and that makes sense too.
You might also fully assembled the 12-tank Bible is 2.1 altitude.
Wow. The interesting thing about that too is if you have a metal can and you want a polymer can that you put on your other rifle, like maybe you're shooting a metal can for a while having fun, but you have that one that, hey, in the night I'm in, like, my friend's position. I'm in a neighborhood. I don't want to annoy the neighbors at 2 o'clock in the morning because there's something trying to eat my animals. And we've done some homesteading podcasts and stuff like that. You don't want to bother the animals if you can.
Sure.
And it's quiet enough to not bother them and arouse a whole bunch of problems.
Right.
It's definitely something to go into. Now, I understand a lot of other people, like, to be fair, suppressors are becoming one of those, in the gun industry, household name kind of items. It's the difference between the revolvers back in the day and then semi-autos came out, but people didn't trust the semi. Even when I started shooting, there was still the FUD lore of a revolver will never fail. Semi-automatics will always fail. And I think we're stepping into the area where people are like, hey, suppressors really should be legal everywhere and everyone should have one because they protect your hearing. And I know a lot of countries where suppressors are common off-the-shelf items where the firearm themselves is damn near unobtainium.
They're basically mandatory to them to that word.
Yeah.
So, and the law being of the law is I could talk to for an hour probably how a lot of that came about with the Gun Control Act of 34 and suppressors just kind of get split in there. But yeah, the fact is also, we know that Hollywood and TD have kind of stigmatized these devices as only being for nefarious purposes. And even so, my wife has some rules that she sees a pistol with a suppressor on it. Those are for hitting them. These are her rules. And a rifle suppressor, those are for assassins on the heavy dose of a stink pen. Why? But she's actually, that's actually how I think how a lot of people feel.
Yeah.
Oh, and good fun. Like, she's like, oh, you look like a hitman now. I'm like, thanks, honey. But
to be fair, my wife likes to shoot with the suppressors when I got them. She's like, oh, wow. And probably going to have to get her some. The biggest issue with her is firearms are heavy for her still, which means I got to get her a lot more gun range time.
I know that's the 5.6 ounce pistol can. And that cheap will fall. Who's Phil?
Yeah. We might be doing a purchase here after this fitting course. We'll see how that goes.
But so yeah, that even there for 1225, the goal there is this is something for, like you're saying, or people doing bombing or planking or something, and you should never have to replace the stack. But if you do, it doesn't cost them.
Gotcha. Which is blows my mind.
So, but with a pistol cam, if we bought our theirs, very, very much gearing now toward, we're going to ship it with the, what we'll call the basic stack and the starter stack. Let you play it at suit your paint. Meet your needs right there. Then if you want to try something fancier, you have a need for whatever reason, you want to do a lot of FRT shooting, you want to put some heavier calibers, and get some durability out of it. You don't care as much about the sound reduction, and most of those people already experienced with suppressors, so they know how to handle them. They're not just going to grab a hold of them with the bare hand, that kind of stuff. And by all means, we already have the one metal option. We're testing the other metal option here probably in about a week and a half. And that one's titanium, and that one's actually built with the pistols in mind. It's got room in it for a booster.
Okay, yeah, and the booster is a big thing too, because I knew it back in the day, but it's really hard for people. So let's step back, and I'm going to treat it, because I know some people who are listening to this probably don't know crap about suppressors. Tell me what goes into putting a suppressor on a pistol, and why you set yours up the way you do.
Okay, so
and maybe what the future of your company may involve too.
So the branding style actions, which is almost every handgun in the world now, Glocks, SIGs, CZ, whatever, they all work with that tilting unlock mechanism, developed by John Browning in the 1900s. And because of that downward motion, the barrel has to tilt up, and if there's too much weight, honestly, almost any extra weight at all beyond what it was designed for, the gun will miss. It won't feed correctly. It'll fail to eject. You'll stovepipe. You'll run into all kinds of problems. And that's what the Nielsen device, Nielsen booster, whatever. It's basically black magic voodoo to the layman. But essentially what's happening is there's a high pressure spring that is attached to the can. And then there's a piston that moves within that spring that's attached to the barrel. And if you watch it in slow motion, what effectively happens is the can stays in place while the barrel moves while you're sliding this back. And that gives it just enough time for that action for the barrel to tilt down. And then everything snaps back where it's supposed to be, and the extra weight of the can now being propelled by that spring actually helps drive the action backward and up the way you need it to go. So the best way, honestly, there's probably some YouTube videos out there where you can see it in super slow motion, but I can tell you definitively your block style handgun, SIG, whatever, is not going to function with a suppressor of any weight on it for reliability without English. Sometimes
a little bit. That said, I know a lot of your iterations right now don't have the Nielsen device set up, and you did talk about going in that direction. Definitely will be probably something I'm looking for. I know it's going to probably cost a little more too, just because I had to repurchase a Nielsen device for my suppressor because I was suggested to buy a 45 ACP can. Get a different cap, get a 9mm cap, because it would still suppress. And I wasn't looking for TV whisper quiet either. I was competent enough and been around enough to realize, hey, a couple decibels here and there don't matter. Yeah. But I got when I ordered it, I didn't realize I had the wrong threading.
Oh yeah,
I had to go back and buy that specific device.
There's a, if I got 14 something, there's a be ready.
Yeah, and that's something, if anyone's buying stuff for this, make sure you get your thread and pitch right.
If the US gun in 45 is probably 9/16 by 24. That's the same for 10 man and also.
Yeah, and I've got it. I've got a multi-caliber can now. Well, at least that's what they say.
We bought as good at the 45.
Mm-hmm.
But just change out the stack. The end cap is already 45.
Yep.
So it's a hex worth taking out. And the suppression's all done by the stack itself. So gotcha. The amp is just there to keep the stack inside band.
Gotcha.
In the base version does work just fine for Nielsen Huster. The only reason that the LRT full metal one doesn't is because that's a use case specific. But with 3D printing stuff, so we might as well iterate, and we might as well be specific and sell it to our customer, because it doesn't cost us $1 million R&D to get that.
Yeah, and as you go along, you'll figure things out.
Hey.
So, I'm going to ask you a few questions because I'm a dummy on this, and I'm going to also ask a couple other questions that were presented to me. One of the guys asked, what are the thermal effects on different metallurgy? And he asked, why is the lightest cans aren't always the best option? Maybe you have a different opinion on that specifically.
So, what it comes down to when you're talking about thermodynamics, the most thermally conductive metal that's practically used in suppressors is aluminum. And aluminum It's around 275 kWi, which is just layman's terms of a lot. Aluminum transfer heat extremely quickly. So, but also that means that it also has a fairly low fatigue point. So you're basically trading away the durability there. So full aluminum can, and there are some out there. I've seen it in the 9mm. I've seen it for pistols. But they do, it's one of those things where you find that, especially if it's a baffle, a stack of a baffle can, that your baffles, especially the first few baffles, are wearing out. They crack pretty easily under heat. And so then you want to move on to other more exotic materials, that's where DNLS for the metal printing really comes in, because about the most basic thing that most people 3D print is 17-4 stainless steel with heat treatable artistic steel. So that's not even something you want to machine, but we can print it with ease. That's actually all the flexibility in the industry is starting that way. And then from then on, it's titanium. Titanium has its own flavor to bring to suppression because it is super light at 65% weight steel, and it has very high heat resistance up to a point. And so it's a good balance. The problem with Thai is that it's really expensive. And as one company, I'm not going to name, but they did have an apology video that came out where, for one reason or another, they didn't fully stress relieve their builds, and they had problems with fatigue cracking. Titanium, when printed, gel, but when printed, especially titanium, is one of the more angry metal hard, and it likes to crack and it likes to spring. And if you are not prepared for that with your reality, and you're going to run into problems, and they did. Again, it's part of a learning process, and I'm glad that they make good with it. But that's just one of those things you can't mess around with. And also, titanium is super great. It's super good up until it's not. So if you are running YouTube guys, there's a YouTube video now with a super can with civilian. Wash the titanium cans, and they're shooting good, full auto. And then in about the period of about 3 rounds, the can goes from a nice cherry red to yellow to the end is blown off.
Woo!
Right? These videos are kind of cool, but at the same time, you can, if you want, print some fine. I had to bone down some cans, restore some cans for test purposes. And that's one of the things. The titanium can get hot, and then it literally melts into a little hotsy flash just like that.
Interesting.
So then the third option is the spaces with space metals, and that's Pinto. And Pinko, or there's also derivatives. You probably heard about Haynes 282. There's a couple of different flavors of Pinko. P5 is popular with guys 718. Pinko was one of the first metals that was printed after titanium because of the aerospace need for it. So titanium, however, has ridiculous high temperature breaths. So we're talking 800-900 degrees F with no mechanical variation. So it's still red hot, but it's just as sturdy as it was at room 10.
Gotcha. And that's something else I did want to ask you about too. So I know steel or stainless steel. I'm not sure if they make stainless steel. You can tell me if I'm an idiot on that one. I know about the titanium, and I know Inconel, but I also know some suppressors make sparks when they're shot at night with night vision, and most of my listeners have night vision.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Well, to be fair, the guy who got me to do podcasting, and I write articles about dumb stuff from drones in Ukraine to logistical stuff and food prep and all that other stuff. He now sells night vision. He's got thermal and stuff like that. So you're seeing a lot more of those guys, and we went from having no one like a few people having night vision at courses to everybody having night vision at courses, but no thermals, maybe one guy or two guys. Now everybody has thermals, so it's been an interesting progression, and now we're seeing more people like, oh yeah, I have suppressors, and that's also interesting too, because a lot of the Ukrainian war stuff, we saw suppressors getting tossed when they first got there from people going over to fight, and now they're coming back into being a vogue thing where everybody has suppressors now, which I don't know about that side of it.
The sparks are titanium. So one of the things that everybody likes to gotcha with titanium because of the strength of steel, like the 2/3 of like. The problem is titanium's surface abrasion characteristics are not very good. And when you talk about abrasives, there are a few things more abrasive than supersonic gunpowder. And so that's effectively what you're getting. Those sparks, a lot of them could contain, they can, but yeah, you're mildly eroding the surface of the suppressor at the microscopic level, but it's still the problem with titanium when it sparks is bright, active. Well, and that's obviously a real problem if you're trying to maintain low visual profile and nice under 90. So what I've been seeing some people do is they will have an end tap to the material, like even all those things, or even the last couple of batch in a staff tin. They might do the main body, like say you have 7 or 8 baffles, fat, continuous string of baffles in your factor. The first few, like the person's probably Inco, because that's the blasting one, and then the middle one could be tied, but then the last couple will be back to Inco. Inco is heavy. It's actually slightly heavier than steel, and it has an extremely complicated heat treat process that makes it can make it difficult for suppressor manufacturers because just because of the regulation that goes around when something is a suppressor and when it isn't. Usually that means they have to work at a shop that's also licensed for the heat treat. And I, from experience, unless you're a dead expert at heat treat, typically heat treat professional, you just hope people just don't have the money. The least expensive press I've seen that can handle most printed belts, because you're going to put the whole build in the 3D printer with all the cans already in there, and they run around $75 to $80.
Gotcha.
Then you have to beat them hard on, and then you have to set this up, which is this writing, and then you post-process. I mean, if you don't really exactly like, you create a brittle monster, like kind of with swollen on something. So but the pros doing it, and but to have the pros doing it, and the only good news is by the fact.
Gotcha.
So they'll have a minimum, and then maybe that minimum was $1,500 to $1,800 for just to turn the oven on for Inco. But it'll be that'll be like $200 now.
Yeah, no, I guess that.
Well, that's just prices, just from my experience. And then, but yeah, so that could be 3 or 4, 5, 6 milk phone. So you stack up a month worth of bills, and then you put them all in the punch about you take the whole event.
I wonder, and this is something I never thought about having a polymer stack in a suppressor just because, like, and I saw the Form 1 guys doing that back in the day and trying it. I'm very interested now to see that under night vision to see how that performs, because I'm not, like, I don't know if that would make sense for, like, in war, transitioning those things out. We're 3D printing drones for warfare, and the U.S. military is definitely looking into, like, Connex boxes to do that. And I understand, like, the SF guys, their round count's cheap and short. Yeah, you can buy something that lasts forever, but maybe just replace it, kind of like the concept you're doing with your 22s and your 9s on that. It's might be something that's now available to the common person, where we would have seen this only in specialized hands previously.
Well, honestly, a lot of that, there are really 2 different markets for suppression. There's with an Ampamectomy, Special Forces military. Guys would be happy. They want like a 4-ounce tin direct crush that they could throw away at the end of the bin. And then if it works, then and if it has other benefits besides what they love. The average customer, civilian, however, who's beholden to regulation and all these other things, they want something that's a little bit more modular, that they can pass from one gun to another. The military doesn't use a lot of QBs. Like if a can is on there, staying on there.
Yep.
And so all that stuff is catered to civilians. But the military would be more than happy with a one gun. If they could take it out and burn it up and then grow it away, that would actually, they're probably piece of armor for the odd. There never stories about Navy SEALs and their MP5 SGs.
Yeah, I have not, but I could only guess. Well, I can only guess how hard those are. Which also, I have a great question for you that I really wanted to get into, because I'm in the situation right now. What do you guys recommend on how to clean your suppressors? Because I have seen everything from don't do anything, sonic cleaners, to be careful what you use to clean it. And obviously, because you guys are working with titanium, you'll have a specific regimen for that. But you also have polymer ones too, which are that just blows my mind. And it's also super interesting. Like, hey, it's done, it's burned out, toss it, and ship this back, and we'll replace it.
Right.
That's cool.
So first off, again, you don't have, if it's a printed FDM stash and you're having any issues with it all, first of all, the way that I design a lot of these is that where they do have openings or forks or mouse holes, I try to keep those open generous enough that they weren't clogged with some kind of toad. about the smallest hole that I put anything metal and flash to give it out, quick through the 75 now. So you'll see some guys with some little pinholes if we're great at the beginning that can start to get dirty and then notice performance in the king, then notice or back pressure. I keep all those open. Really thing to be done. The second thing, like I said, with the FDM stack, if you want to, most of the materials we're using are pretty hydrophobic, so just soap and water and let it dry, put it back down. Or foam.
Okay.
But for the metal can, soak it in CLP, blow it out. But there's not a lot of places other than at the bottom inside edges of the baffles where there's a lot of places for dirt and powder to really get a purchase. But if you want to, you could soak it overnight in your CLP or brake clean equivalent and then blow it out in the morning. Or if you have a sonic cleaner, put it in there. But the stack comes out. So the only part you're really cleaning is a stack. You could run a paper towel or something through the tube if you want. But the stack, and the way that most of the stacks are designed, at least half of their viewable stacks I've been working with, at least half of it is visible to the naked eye, so the fuses too flush with white.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I have a Huxworks 22. Just full disclosure on that one, and that one's sealed up. So
yeah,
I'm gonna either have to get something to clean it or just let it go.
I think that just tells you to put like CLP in it and then to shoot it clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have an Obsidian, which is the stack of baffles that you pull out and everything else, which is interesting. I like the old school. I'm kind of glad I bought it. It wasn't super expensive, but like your prices are way under what I spent.
The hard part, again, if you're traditionally manufacturing suppressor.
Yeah.
And so you have a couple of ways you do the monopore, which had a molded where it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's an aluminum body that's got a bunch of heart shapes cut on it on a mill. Monopore it doesn't suppress as well. It's inexpensive to make. That's the one advantage. You saw a lot of that so-called UL filters. UL filters are made that way. The stack baffles are of the traditionally manufactured cans tend to be the ones that do the best performance. The problem is the manufactured baffle themselves is incredibly time consuming. It doesn't require specialized equipment, but it does require a lot of time. It don't have the specialized equipment, and you're going to probably 9% of the metal on the floor. So if you are a big company like Dead Air, you buy a stainless steel mat, and then you cut a bunch of baffles out of that. Most of that, that's where a lot of the cost of those suppressors really is, and you have to make those. And then if you're going to add ports in those baffles, now you've got to set those up, or you got to have some lock tooling in your lathe, the Y-axis machining and some kind of thing. Again, it requires some specialization. It's just not available for, regular people. Like here at the shop, we got an NC lathe and an NC maul and a couple of manual machines, and then everything else done by hand. And so making traditional baffles would be a nightmare here. It would be so long.
Well, and that's why I think the additive side's really interesting. I know a lot of people are doing 3D printing stuff now at home. I am cautiously looking at 3D printers because of all the legal mumbo jumbo going on with that right now, which I'm sure you've probably heard of.
Yeah, I'll have to wait for that to get standing, and then, they'll fight it, and the Supreme Court, and we'll be right back where we were.
Yeah.
Well, if we can speak to G-code, Goon and I both know that there is nobody outside of the machine world who could look at a G-code and have any idea at all what you're making.
Yeah.
And to expect that some attorney general in Washington is going to have a master file of everything that's ever been made out of G-code. Come on, man.
Well, you're also talking about politicians who don't know that getting on Facebook requires the internet. And ask those questions to somebody I don't like, Mark Zuckerberg, but
yes,
I get the concept of like, they don't know what they're doing and they're reacting to stupidity and politics. And that's the worst way to make anything safer I've ever seen in my life.
On the one hand, I will say the frankly obscene overregulation of suppressors has contributed to the budgets by the companies that really wanted to push the time and effort into the R&D. Because they're artificially scarce. There's about 6 million, maybe a little bit more registered suppressors in the United States. Compare that to, depending on who you asked, 350 million people-ish in the U.S., probably more than half of them of gun owners. So, there's a customer base out there, but the devices, because of all the regulations that are on it, the companies that make them can justify, charging, in a lot of cases, 3x, 4x their manufacturing price. I'm not mad at it for doing that. I mean, I think that's great, and if they can make the money, then they should do it. But also, the technology they're using, the basic geometry that they're using is over 100 years old. Modern equipment, these filament printers, even the metal printers, have really kind of pushed the limits of some of the geometry to the point where it should be more accessible, which is, I think that's kind of our core mission here. Is, again, it's about cans and hands and getting as many people as possible to because once you shoot it,
Yeah, there's no real going back. Like I've got AR-15s, I got AKs. I have the most bastardized AK on the planet. It's an AK-47U, which was some Bulgarian 7.62 by 39, but it's got a fake suppressor on it of a Russian design. And my whole life I was like, oh, I'm gonna put a suppressor on. I'm gonna put a suppressor on. I never did,
right?
Because it was the barrier to entry on suppressors when I bought that gun was more expensive than that unique AK at the time.
Well, even today, you're still in a lot of cases. I've got my PSA data deal that's for $445 out of the box.
Yeah,
with just a leftover optic and magnifier on it at $35 light from the Amazon, and that's approaching the cost of the people can has people sell on the website. Yep. And then if I was then hit something with actual glass or do a multiple of DMR or something like that, then now I mean someone just putting a can on you. I mean I already done on the price in some cases. Huge candidates. So
yeah, and that's why I loved. That's what when I saw your prices, I was like, "What is going on here?" Because your prices are low enough that I thought you were getting the components for a Form 1 at first.
No,
it's a whole can.
The counterpoint to that is, everybody else is overcharging.
Yeah.
It's really where it comes down to. Everybody else, that is the other. And again, good on them. If you can put a name on something and sell it, then do it. And they have millions of dollars in R&D behind those cans and lots and lots of remake materials. And that's all great, but they've also priced themselves out. That's why that base price of the people's can with everything else attached to it, 3 zeros, is a pretty safe way around Christmas to get the thing you want without your wife cutting up and putting you in the street.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Now that I'm married,
right,
my purchases have to be kind of
right.
So
I mean, I've got kids to think up to, and what happened.
Gas prices, everything else that's going on.
$1,800 on the band suppressor, and now he just doesn't come around anymore. By the way, eat your pizza. So and that really, with a lot of the prices, could be charged more for them. I've been told he should charge more for them. It's a hard sell to read, because if I had just a fiendish idea that you would spend, especially for the 12-can product, for a 22 can, you should not spending twice as much on a can as you do on the Ruger 4 pistol within from them.
Yeah. And that's something you probably, I don't know if you know him, Brush Beater, his store, he's got a line called Kyber Optics. Yep. He's got a 1-10 by 28 FFP LPVO. It's $500.
Yeah.
And it's affordable. It's something that's a decent price that you're not, and that's what his range is for. That's what he's going for. So
I want people. I want regular people, not assassins, not hitmen. I want people to put a suppressor on my handgun when they go to the range. We've been to the range, boys. We've been to the range where there have been people blasting Dracos and XP for, hammering away with full auto 5.56 or 7.62, and this, I'm like, freaking use it for. We should let them treat this rest 9mm PCC, and then maybe the next time they're here, they'll realize that for the cost of, maybe 500 rounds of ammo,
yep,
they could put a can on it, and then we wouldn't have to listen.
Yeah, which would be super nice. I get eyes right now. I'm down in Florida, southern part of Florida, and it's basically all indoor ranges. And when I go out to shoot my suppressors, everybody looks at them and goes, "What's that?" Because no one really uses suppressors. By the way, I don't know whose carbine this is, but somebody's got an MCRN with the people's can on it. Love it.
That's, yeah, so I got to give a shout out to my buddy gunsmith Matt. Matt just had, his wife just had a baby on the night. So I met Matt at my last job. Matt works with Vulcan. The thing was rating $6,000 2011s. He actually did the stippling. He did most of the assembly on my 10 millimeter 2011. There's a few flip that here and there. Great cat. He's the one. He went to gunsmithing school and they needed practice Cerakoting. And I'm like, my man, take my cranking gun, please, and do something with it. And he came up with the color scheme, which we decided looked like Narcissus camo. We're pretty big fans of the Expanse around here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I am too.
A little sneaky nod. Not everybody catches it, but yeah. So that's the Martian camo PCC. And again, this is another one of those things where I had a hard time justifying a 9mm submachine gun that didn't suppress.
Yeah, I get that now. Having the experience now, I'm like, that CZ Scorpion really needs a specifically built can and just leave it on there, which was my ultimate goal too. So let me ask you, because I know you got two guys who sat there and were very quiet. Do they have anything that they were thinking about or want to add, or things that you guys have specifically heard that is a lie or a myth that you might want to bring up?
I mean, the one thing that I would say is, because I'm not totally confident that's done background, I'm more machining and stuff. So that's one of the things that when I started doing this, I never realized what exactly suppressors did. Because from video games and stuff you see, and you put a suppressor on your sniper or your rifle, whatever, and it's dead quiet. And any cause or anything like that. So after actually using them, you get a better understanding that it doesn't completely silence your gun, but it makes it, like James said, a lot more vulnerable. To the point where you don't have hearing protection on, you don't need a grenade out there. You're shooting inside the bar or inside of your home for self-defense.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I was looking at them too, because I used to do a lot of training in and out of vehicles. Things that you find out really quickly. The blast coming out of a vehicle is god awful to your passenger, or when you're the driver, it's not fun.
I've shot from inside a car. It's not really something that I'm like, well, let's go do that then.
Yeah. And then add to that, don't shoot an AK from the driver's side because you will crack the windshield.
So,
ask me how I figured that one out.
Yike.
Twice. Yeah, I did it about 4 years apart, and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot.
I think Zer0andSons has something to add. I don't have a whole lot of experience, but my dad's been an additive for 15 years. Yeah. And so I've seen my fair share of ridiculous things that people try to print. And I feel like a lot of people are still kind of behind in it, where they're trying to just take something that's made to be machined and just print it instead, which isn't what it's meant to be. You have so much more. It's not a better system. It's just a different one. And so it's like trying to use a microwave to, I don't know, heat up something that's not food. I feel like a lot of people are still in the subtractive mindset when they really need to design to be 3D printed and take advantage of the things that you can do with 3D printing, because you can get some ridiculous geometry, like even on the low scale, like on muzzle brakes, you can do curved ports, which, I mean, we've experimented with. We don't know the whole best of those, but it's still a cool idea. And you can get geometry thing just can't get otherwise. But yeah, I'm excited to see how the polymers perform on thermal, because the ones that we're mainly using are either PET CF or PET VIA or PA6 CF, which is nylon. And so I'm curious with the glass or carbon fiber fillings that those have, how I feel like it would be pretty good, but I'm not sure. We're going to have to find out. I think we're going to have to find out.
I'm super interested too. Man, if I lived where I want to live, which probably will end up being Tennessee one of these days, and I have enough grassland, I want to do is shoot suppressors out in the backyard and not be bothered.
Right.
So I think we have gone through most of the questions I had. We had one more question come in late, but I think you answered. It was like, why don't we see more titanium suppressors that don't spark? And I think you had a great explanation for that. And
we thought about Cerakote or something. The big thing is just to get the gunpowder and the titanium not to meet.
Yes.
But even Cerakote, or I looked at some of these tool coatings of things like BLP. One, they're really hard to apply to the inside of the suppressor where you really need them. and it's not going to last forever. So I think the solutions that I've seen that have worked the most are a bimetal can of some kind, like I said, at the flavor end cap. A lot of times will handle it. And also, there's some ways that, and we've got one too, if you actually, well, if the geometry of the People's can is publicly available, it's on, like, I used it everywhere. I used it in Charge Bowl last year. So you can see the whole inside. And I went ahead and modeled the flash arrestor in the last apple because I could. And while it doesn't perform that well with the end cap on, if there's no end cap, it actually helps. Because it's effectively just like it's a six-ported, like the old style bird cage, only, stuck in the end of the claw. And yep, it makes a difference. I would like to do a little bit more night shooting with it, just to kind of see where that comes out. But again, this high cans are no sparks, and it's just really hard to get right, especially on thermal. I don't know if you're going to be able to overcome that and make to the screw hotel.
Yeah, well, obviously thermal, you're going to see heat regardless, and the night vision. I know there's a use case for that, and the reality is that, like, one of the most interesting muzzle brakes I've ever seen is the more modern Russian AK muzzle brakes. Prevents almost all sparks coming out of it, which blew my mind.
Yeah,
but there's ways to work around it.
I've done a couple of things, but it's real hard to get away from what I think the company was called Starlight or Starline. They were back 70s. They're one of the guys that came up with 3-prong original. It's really hard to get away from that kind of twisted 3-prong A4 flash suppressor. It just works fantastically well.
Yep.
So, and what you're trying to do there without getting too far into this is, you got that expanding ball of fire. Let me ask you again. When it first leaves the muzzle, it hasn't ignited yet because it hasn't hit enough air. And so, the flash suppressor is she push that under the semi-dark powder as far away from the muzzle as possible so that it touches the breath. And by splitting it into multiple pathways and multiple panels, there's less of it in contact with the top, because it's that unburnt or semi-burnt gunpowder. It's a huge deal now. Everything's shooting full barrel, 11 shots, 2 degrees, water. So
that's funny, because the fake suppressor on my AK is a giant tube, and that thing shoots a flame about 4 feet at night. It's enjoyable to see a few times, but it lights up the whole world. And I didn't know how that worked, and hearing that side alone is pretty intriguing to me. Just not knowing more, like we know the bird cage, I've seen the 3 prongs, and I know the difference that there's certain brakes that work for or flash reduction, and others work better for recoil mitigation, and people have been trying to merge that.
You're either gonna have a muzzle brake that helps it muzzle wise, but it's pretty flashy, or you're gonna suppress the flash altogether. One other thing real quick I was going to say is for the guys that are worried about sparking, especially with night, they're not really caring about extreme long-range accuracy. Wipes. Don't wipe on the fan.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's something like the whole wipe side of things. I know there's the Hush Puppy back in the day. I've seen some really cool stuff over time with that stuff, too.
A lot of people do it just to beat first round pop, but if you have a fairly durable wipe, just by the way, that plastic printers say today again, because we printed some wipes out of TPE.
Huh.
And
interesting.
We're working on a white cap that is out of the rubato. But
interesting.
You just screw on and off. That it seats up against the baffle stack, and it's amplified that. So it's just going to be a slightly longer end cap, basically. Since you're already working on the wipe anyway, I'm like, I might as well just go ahead and put that out.
Well, if you're also doing the stuff with wipes, with how you guys are doing this too, a small cost of me sending back a suppressor with a polymer base or wipes.
Sure.
And because that's like, obviously you guys got to make money, and that's the whole goal of doing a business, is to make money, but you guys are doing it trying to make it available to common people, which I super appreciate. I don't know the whole legality of it. I've heard weird things. Wipes have to be sent from the company. You can send extra wipes. You can't send extra wipes. So that's something I'm sure you guys will dig into before you actually present it.
We'll get to it. So the big thing there, by providing a low-cost entry-level can with optional add-ons, optional accessories, it helps us develop some brand loyalty, which is super important in any business. but also you're not going to necessarily need to, for the civilian, for the person who's moving the device around from one gun to another. The idea is that you're not just going to, oh, I'd love to use this, but I can't use it on this because I don't have the right now, or I don't have the right, this one's 9mm, but I have a 4.5.
Yep.
That is all waterhood bridge. We can make it kind of however you need it. If you want to go for 18, I'll go full hog fine. But if you're a poverty trailer path folk like us, you want to be able to not get murdered because you spent 3 or 4 figures on something.
Yeah.
And this is a good way to get into it. And not, again, you get to survive to shoot another day by, at the end of the day, you're spending less than a face ammo.
Yeah. It's just, I just bought 1,000 rounds. I'm like, it's been a little while since I've had to buy 1,000 rounds for a course.
We loaded up a bunch of magazines the range last weekend, and they're like, they're empty.
So I will. I know you guys are the manufacturer nomenclature for you guys.
7.2. So we can't sell the fiend guns, but we can make them. And
So just I don't know if this is correct or not, because I've lived all over the country. I remember that Florida does not allow FRTs, even though I met the FRT lawyer at a book get together for American. Are they still illegal in Florida? Just
by the poorly written law that also bans bump stocks, yes, but that same law as written that also bans during the fleet comes in Florida, because it says anything that makes the gun fire faster than intended. That's paraphrasing, but that's the end being sent to the life.
Okay.
But the moral is waiting to be challenged. I don't want to be the guide.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm ready to move out of here. My only FRT gun is out of the state with a friend because of that. I was like, it's one I didn't travel with because of that.
As a 7.2, I might as well just register a machine gun. And
I had a binary trigger. It wasn't an FRT, but I think binaries down here are the same animal.
The way the Florida law is written, that's the technical side.
Yeah.
You're not lawyers here, so just doffs one with the flop thing you done.
Yeah, or cats. My cats were my one old cat that traveled with me. He loves the smell of suppressors after I go to the range. He'll literally just lay against the thing.
Yeah.
And again, just to let people know, you don't have anything right now that's over $700 on your website, which just is phenomenally good. And there's some sales going on. Plus, you've got end caps, which are usually $150 for most places, at $50 for your stuff. I can't say enough good things about what I saw. The one thing I will say, and this is the reason why I contacted you, because it's so hard to get out there. One of the guys asked, how are you promoting your stuff? Because Facebook, blah, 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 are pretty much dead. And I, of course, caught you on X, of all places.
So X, we've had a fair amount of traffic on Insta, but one thing that I think has helped a lot is, and it's back to X, but we have a group. I know they're getting rid of groups for them. The Americans, there's like 12 or 13 of us. My wife calls them my men support we. But we're all like-minded folks. We all kind of have our own little niche. But it's a couple of guys that are full-on dealers that work gun shows. There's a holster maker guy, B1. And so that's helped some a little bit, and a lot of word of mouth. Just getting videos. And I mean, the big thing is just people seeing it out there. And let them shoot them and let them see that it's not hype. And even if it is hype, man, we'll work with it. Because you know, I go with them. So, and there always had an option, and always keep your eye up into the customer. And we will be at Bowls.
Oh, what is it?
The Gun Owners of America legal show. That's in Des Moines. Well, I think it's the 31st, the line that weekend. Okay. So I'm actually going with one of the other guys from AGA. Really legal firearms. I make it the swap stop.
Gotcha.
We're adjacent to fun. We have a big right now. So, and that's one of the big things. Again, video is nice. Hands in hand are nice. Letting people just see it one. And I mean, it's fine. I don't know if I necessarily want to force someone to be an influencer or whatever, but it's, it's people like it and they want to shoot it. We do have a couple of sample cans in circulation. Well, I can smack them back on people. That's usually a good sign. I'd love to claim that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't know. I know Scout has a actual FFL dealership up where he is in North Carolina. So I'll harangue him on that because he does classes. He still does classes on signals intelligence and everything else. But people go to his store and go buy things there too.
Frankly, I would a torture test. I would love to see a torture test if I could swing it. And it'll be the one that I would want to send. But for pistols, I think that Roboto, the way it's built, there's no real pure fill, no pull on it. They can't use the cover, most intricate part placing is thatch. Or maybe it's spread at the end cap, and those are also cheap. So, just to get it out there and let people try it. And if you burn it up, you know what? It's okay. I kind of expect that, somebody's going to try King Rider. And
it'll be a little cash out of your pocket on it. But I mean, that's...
Generally speaking, we'll stand by our warranty if you didn't dry it over with your truck.
Yeah.
And I'll do my absolute best to replace it at Frost if we can.
Yeah. And that's totally understandable.
The way that it's designed is that, like the People's Can has a very generous opening. It's at the 45, the real difference in the end cap. So it's going to be rare indeed that you have a baffle right on the People's Can. You might get the end cap. But if you're not spiking the entire device, which is one of the big problems of the fully 3D printed metal cans, is that they are light, but if you had a find that you did worm holding outside fire.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I actually got the stacked one. I was like, let me see. I watched a gentleman in Oklahoma shoot the SOCOM Surefire can. He just got it out of prison, and this is when you had the year wait. And the first round, he shot it, and it went straight down the range.
Oh, yeah. And I think but he dip the can off of there to get carbon light. That's where he posted it.
Well, he got it off on the first shot. I don't think he got it on quite well. The poor man, and it just saw pieces of it down range. It's like, So, let's see here. On X.com, you are Zero with the O is a zero,
right?
And Sons, and then you have. I'm going to let you say this because I don't want to sound like an ass and say something wrong. What's your website?
The website is Ship Zero Ballistics.
Okay,
and it's purely because of the search engine optimization. We're having it work ballistic to else. We're it's still early days, but and to make things easier, now that the other URL is available, I'm going to go ahead and get the one with just the O and not the zero.
Gotcha.
What's cool, and it's really easy to square away if nobody's using that, because it's sometimes hard to know.
Yeah, so, I almost messed up your email today. I was like, oh no, that's definitely a zero. So
we've got our Insta, which is Zer0andSons LLC.
And I'm interested. I will probably harass you guys more and pick your brains. I really want to get you guys some exposure. I know it's not a lot of people, but my dudes who listen to us, listen to Radio Contra, and do buy gear, and you're affordable. And I know there's a lot of people that were just like me who are like, hey, suppressors, I want one. It's really cool. I want to try one. I want to have one. But like the barrier to get in it was just stupid.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll wait for the next thing. Oh, let me go buy another gun. Let me go to a training course, because I've spent enough on training courses. I've bought training courses that were more expensive than a suppressor because I felt training was more important than having an item to put on a gun that costs more than the firearm.
Right.
And do I really need it? So
yeah.
Cool.
Choices that you can do with everyone.
Yep. So I'm just going to wrap this up. Any last words from any of your guys?
I think that's pretty much it.
All right, gentlemen, and maybe a lady or two, keep your shovel sharp and don't be a loot job. Have a good day. Sharpen those shovels, boys, do not despair.
the others rode in the shadows. There's no turning back now, or our town